Youth corps was very good. I enjoyed it thoroughly, made new friends, friends that I've kept till today. And then we then left for, after youth corps, we had,
How did your career life start, as a practicing lawyer?
while I was in Unilag, we had a lecturer who joined the faculty. His name was Victor Mukwele Ngo. Victor Mukwele Ngo was a Cameroonian, and he was the first to make a first class in law in Nigeria, in a Nigerian university, in the University of Nigeria in Nsukka. So he was actually, he went into academics, and he was sent to establish the Faculty of Law, University of Calabar. So while in Calabar, he also practiced with Dr. Koarikbo.
Or was he called to the Nigerian
He was called to the Nigerian bar, So he was practicing law in, of course, he knew Justice Ndoma Egba. He appeared before him and all of that. Then he now came to Lagos. And of course, I had heard of him in Calabar, so I went to introduce myself. So we became friends. And then during my youth corps, he had left Unilag to Unijos to establish the Faculty of Law in Unijos before they brought one Professor Osieke from ILO, International Labour Organization, to head it. So Mr. Ango now wrote to me as a youth corps, offering me a job as a graduate assistant.
But then, you were still in Bauchi.
I was still in Bauchi, I was still in Bauchi. And he followed the letter with a personal letter, in which he gave me an idea of my career progression, what they would do after 1 year. They'll send me abroad for further studies.
That's not in Unijos?
In Unijos. And then said anytime I was passing through, I should see him. So I stopped to see him. We talked about it. He even went to show me my flat, where I'll be staying, and then took me somewhere where they gave me the keys, But I told him I had to go home to tell my parents that I had finished. And so I came home. It's another aspect of my life. I was a taxi driver at some point, so the guy who picked me home.
Taxi driving, that's like side hustling now.
Yes, side hustling.
Were you doing that in Ikom or Calabar?
No, it was in Ikom.
In Ikom.
So the guy.
Was it like those Datsun 120?
No, they were Toyota Corollas, owned by the Enwezo brothers. The Enwezo brothers are still there in Ikom till today. So after the Civil War, they came with 6 of them. They bought 6 of them. And
it wasn't a privilege for you to even have that car at the time.
No, they were using, yes, the only person I remember who had it as a private car is the father-in-law of Major General Ojiji, the wife's father, who was a bank manager in Udoja. But so I had SM's dad was also a bank manager.
General's wife, father was also
a bank manager. So anyway, I stopped to sing. God gave me the keys. When I got to Ikom, my father was at home for the weekend and said, I finished youth corps. So what next? I said, well, I want to go into academics. So I have this offer from your son, Mr. Ango, to teach. I've already collected the keys to my flat. And I was very excited. I was going to be living alone, start life. I was 22, big boy. So he said, no, you can't go. You have to go and talk with Kanu Agabi. I said, why? When I was in year 2, Kanu, when my father became a judge, he handed over his practice to Kanu. Kanu was in court in Ikom, and my father was in town. So he came to have lunch with my father. I was in year 2 and I was serving them. And he was like, oh, Victor, how far have you gone with your studies? I said, just finished year 2. I'm going to go to year 3. What are your plans? I said, I'm going to go into academics, blah, blah, blah. And he was, no, you can't go to academics. Us is a bread and butter generation. We have to work for money, take care of our parents. It's our children who can pursue their dreams and all of that. And I didn't say a word. So my father now referred me to that conversation.
No, they had that.
So I now said, yes, I remember the conversation, but that day I didn't say a word. He said, that's the point. Not saying a word means that you agreed with him.
So you have to like come back. That is law.
Yeah. So
That is law.
yeah, you the only person who can release you from that now is Kanu himself. So go and see Kanu. So I said, so this university life, this is how it's going to end. Now I went to Goja. Kanu had traveled, like I said, he was chairman of Nikon. I think yes, he was about 29 or so. So he was
even young then.
Yes, he was very young. He was in the
What
US.
year was the Hilton Belt? It was in the 80s?
They started in 79.
79?
Yeah, they started about, the planning started from 79.
I just saw, I had to see the picture.
Yeah.
Everywhere was bush. And
Yeah.
they were building this gigantic building in the middle of bush in Abuja.
Yeah.
The whole place was full of, trees.
Yeah, and it was Nikon Noga.
Yeah.
I eventually met
It was Nikon Noga, we knew it when it first started.
Yeah, I met the owner of the Noga, my one Israeli, Mr. Nazim Gayon.
Okay. So Noga was like the franchise with...
No, I think it was a I don't know the details, but I think it was a partnership. Anyway, so I went to Ogoja. Strangely, Kanu was in the US, but he had left a long letter for me. He was expecting me.
So he was expecting you?
He was expecting me.
He knew when you finished, he knew what was... So it was actually like watching out for you, I would say.
Left a long instruction, the room I should use, which was his own bedroom, the cases we had, where he was expecting money from, I should get money from there. So much should go for housekeeping, because his office was in the same building, So that was how I started. And then I went, this was in July of 79. He wasn't there. So Sat Sam Emori, an elderly man, came to help out. So they were. So I actually was taught by clerks.
Did they have the practical experience? Not that.
They did, and clerks then were quite knowledgeable. Even the court clerks were very, very knowledgeable. They could give you hints, do this way, and So Kanu came back in late September and said we should move the office to another building in Udamongim Street. So we were moving. By this time, Paul Erokoro had joined. And then he traveled again. Then showed up one day in September. And I said to him, can you thank God you are back? At least we can learn from you. He said, no. I'm not available. I'm going to be commissioner. I'm going to appoint me commissioner. And he was gone. So we had to start on our own, Paul and I, just learn as we went along on our own, But the enthusiasm was something else.
People were quite, I know you and Paul were quite popular around the area, young lawyers, and you had a lot of young women that really admired you and probably hope. And
men. Young women and young men.
I know, the really, you were so popular. You were very, very popular. A lot of young women were aspiring to be Mrs. Victor November someday, So I don't know what you have to say about that.
Well, you know that I'm not exactly a ladies' man, if you know what I mean.
But you're very popular,
I was.
People gave this impression. Well, I don't know. Before I met you, there were the two popular lawyers I really knew. And then, for any young woman to want to marry you, then it wasn't really, really a big thing. One, the family, you name, you had your own. So let's just listen a little bit about that.
I wasn't a strong player in that sector. If you know what I mean. I wasn't a very.
You were just holding.
No, not. Like I told you, when I came back, I was very young, and then because of my physique, I needed to carve an image of seriousness. So the thinking was that it would be party. I cut that off.
So you never did partying?
Oh, I did a lot of partying as a youth copper.
So when you started partying?
Oh, no, I cut it off. Complete 100%.
Well, that's really very nice. In life, I'm not sure, what lesson has life taught you? I've had a chance and privilege of interviewing you some years ago, but it was on another perspective. What lesson has life taught you? How old are you now?
How
young are you?
I'm 66 years young, depending on what you are using. If you are using my date of birth,
Okay.
I'm 66, but when I'm playing tennis, I'm 35.
All right. Well,
You know, so I have different ages for
okay, so
different things.
let's use the date of birth.
Yes.
So what has life? We're talking about pages. So you've gone through so many pages of this life.
The good, the bad, the ugly, and the ugliest.
So I want to know what has life in your 60s. At the time of this interview, you're 66. This interview in the next 30, 40 years, somebody will still be watching it. So what has life taught you as an individual?
Life has taught me that life itself is a cocktail.
Cocktail.
Yes, it's a cocktail. It comes with a lot inside. The good, the bad.
So let's bring this cocktail a little bit.
Yeah. Yes. You know, let's take the good. Some of the decisions I made, they say we are all products. We are the sum total of the decisions we make. If you are lucky, you make decisions that work for you. If you are not so lucky, they don't work. I'm amongst the lucky ones whose decisions worked. At the time I was studying law, my father was the first High Court judge in Eket. He established the High Court in Eket and the High Court in Orun. At the time he was establishing the High Court in Eket and Orun, that was the same time Mobile.
I grew up, I was a child in Ibno.
Yes, in Ibno.
Yeah. Because I was in Ibno at the age of 1 or 2. My father used to work for Mobile.
Okay. Mobile was establishing in Eket at the same time. So the people I saw in my father's house were top management of Mobile, because Eket was just a small, expatriates. The big men then were the DO and the judge. So, and I've kept the friendship of some of the people I met in that time. They became big executives of Mobile. So they just assumed that I was going to work for Mobile. And for them, it was, which country do you want to go to? But as for where I was going to work, it was just the Mobile executives assumed I was going to join Mobile. I could have worked anywhere. The big law firms, Rotimi Williams, I could have gone anywhere. But I decided that I needed to start from a small place, Ogoja.
One, the location, and then the chambers itself.
Yeah, I needed a small town that was going to give you some visibility.
Why did you choose that when you had the opportunity to have gone to work in Lagos? What was it?
Yeah, because for me, money hasn't been my consideration. I think inside me, I was just cut out for public service, and every step I took was guided by God to lead me towards that end. Because Ogoja now gave me the kind of visibility I needed as a young person. How many lawyers in Ogoja? Were very few.
But that too, I would say, was quite restricted.
It was quite
small town, 10 lawyers, 5 lawyers.
Yeah.
Popular in a very small place.
Yeah, but I was wise enough to move when Ogoja got too small for me.
Time you needed to move?
I moved to Calabar when Ogoja became too small for me. I relocated. But you could see that the reputation was being built installmentally. Now, if you were in Lagos, you may have built the reputation, but it would have taken far much longer. You probably would have made so much money.
Big names that would overshadow you.
But when I got to Calabar, you had those big names. But I mean, like I said,
you already wouldn't have had that problem because your dad was a known judge at the time. So you rode on the crest of the family.
Yes, I used his name very well. Yes, it helped me in my practice. I won't deny that, because there were times I got into real trouble. I mean, I remember a matter I was doing before Justice Maman Nasser. He was presiding in Enugu, and Professor Ben Mwabweze was on the other side. So you can. An institution.
He's an authority and institution.
An institution. And there was a young lawyer with Richard Ebri appearing with me. We had.
Richard was also a young lawyer at the time.
Far younger.
Yeah. You were called to bar before Richard.
By far. You know, and then we had made our submissions, and I thought we made a good impression. And then Professor Mwaboze found an error we had made, which was actually typographical. You know, we put a comma, one word.
Comma means something else.
But if you read the judgment, the judges dwelt on that issue. I mean, it was looked. But I mean, it became such a major issue that day in court until one of them said, "What did you say your name was again?" I said, "Victor." "Oh, yeah, Prof. I think this is not a, you know." So things, you know. So it helped, but it only helps when you know what use you want to put it to, and you are making your own effort. You know that is. I don't have any money to inherit from my father. This is the only currency I am going to get from him, and yes, and it helped me. Now, people now started saying when I became commissioner, "Oh, it's Justice Ndoma Egba." He had no hand; he even opposed it. When Buhari thought of making me minister, this was President Buhari telling me, my late wife and I, not too long ago at the airport.
Can we talk more about leadership as a senator? You know, in your own as someone who has served the Nigerian Senate. Let us discuss your contribution. What do you think is really going on in the Senate that probably should not be? You know, because you've been there, so now you're looking at it from not being there.
From outside.
Yes, from the outside. Nigeria right now, people are really crying that things are not really going very well. You've been a senator for quite a number of years. You've really, Nigeria have enjoyed your own contribution and so on. So, you know, as a leader and as someone who has served Nigeria in various capacities, what do you think should be done? You've been in leadership from a very young age, in your 20s. And if you look at Nigeria right now, I don't know who's not complaining. So what do you think should be done that is not being done? Or where did we get it all wrong and how do we put it right?
Okay, let me start from leadership. You know, when we were in Ogoja, we were very few, and we tried to set up, to organize the bar in Ogoja because it wasn't organized, and I was central to it. I was the Nigerian Bar Association, so I was like interim secretary. There was no chairman. I know I was coordinating, even though I was the Paul and I were the youngest. Then I moved to Calabar, and I got quite active in the Bar Association and in the Chamber of Commerce, and I became a chairman of the NBA Calabar branch. You know, it's something you hold for one term. I was chairman for an unprecedented 3 terms. Wow. Because nobody was ready to take over. We went around begging, you know.
Because the challenges were too much or what?
Well, you know, I don't know whether it was the challenges or the standards. Then we had the military regime, and then this issue of June 12th. So you had to confront the military. I mean, you were. It was quite. In fact, there was a day I was playing tennis, and somebody came to tell me. My wife was in the swimming pool. It was like a club, and her friend came to the swimming pool and said, "Look, why don't you tell your husband to slow down because they are planning to kill him?" You know, and I loved my wife's response. You see, he will die someday, so it's better he dies for a reason than for no reason.
Better to die fighting than not fighting.
You know, and I didn't hear anything about that again. But it was a most challenging time. We're fighting for so many things, judicial reforms. Yeah. That was during the Kayode Shaw panel. Probing judges. That was when we lost quite a number of judges, had quite a number retired. We had the military on one side, you had the judicial reforms on the other side. So we couldn't, finding somebody to take over became a major challenge. And about the same time, I was also president of the Calabar Chamber of Commerce. Again, like my predecessor, Basi Edem, we couldn't find somebody to take over from Basi. He had to force me to take over from the two position. Yes, and again, I had to do an unprecedented 3 terms as president of the Calabar Chamber of Commerce. That was, yes, it was at the time when we were getting the government to recognize that the government and the private sector needed to work together. Clement Ebri was governor, and for once, the private sector was brought in. During the MBA presidency of Chief TJ Okpoko, I think they recognized my contributions at the local level, and they brought me to the National Executive Committee of the MBA, where I was until I was nominated to the body of benchers, I think in 2000. And then I was there for a long time. Then I was dropped for like 2 or 3 years, and then renominated, and then became a life bencher when Justice Walter Onogen was no, when he was chairman body of benchers. Okay. He was chief justice, but he was chairman body of benchers. Yes. So I'm a life bencher.
Okay, that's very good.
Then I now came to how I came to the Senate is another story, but Senator, no, at no time. Governor, yes, I had thought of being governor.
You said that in the beginning when the administration.
Yeah.
But I've asked you a question: why did you go for governorship?
I ran for governor.
Well, no. Before then, you were saying you were not interested in being a governor.
Yes, because
I said that I don't think you should be a senator. You should be a governor.
Yeah.
Because of what you're an insider, you know what's going on in the state. So being an outsider, not being into being the governor of Cross River State, you can't really fix government.
There are certain dynamics that determine where you are politically, and you have to watch those dynamics. If they don't, yes, at some point when Donald Duke was leaving, there were people who thought, "Oh, Victor should," but I mean the dynamics were not in my favor. The dynamics were all in Leah Limoke's favor, so you would have been running against the tide if you did. But I ran for governor. If you remember, when Clement Ebri emerged, I was one of those who ran then. I think that was in 1991 or 1992.
I was sort of history.
Yes, I think I was 34 or so. So
very young and ambitious.
Yes, because ambitious. Maybe if you say that the passion for service.
Passion must go with ambition, because we don't have the passion, and the ambition cannot be there.
I agree with you. Maybe the ambition is the fuel that drives the passion. But I from the day I decided that I was going to start from Ogoja, I knew that, because at some point the idea of going to the bench or becoming a judge came up. But what disrupted that was my unexpected appointment as commissioner. And I now started seeing the world from a different perspective. And the problem about having a father who was in the judiciary and you going into the judiciary, if you do not surpass your father, then you are a failure. And we see the story of the Ademolas. Justice Adetokunbo Ademola was Chief Justice of Nigeria. His own son, Justice Adenekan Ademola, made it only to the Court of Appeal. Not to the Supreme Court. His grandson made it only to the Federal High Court. So
the next one probably
so if you do not outshine your father, then you are a failure. Yes. So when you have overachieving parents, the trick is move out of their shadows, do something totally different from what they did.
So you recognize for
all right. Yes. Yes. I remember when I started contributing to newspapers, encouraged by the famous Raymond Ekpu, Chief Ray Ekpu.
Newswatch.
Newswatch, when he was in Chronicle and he encouraged me to.
Ray, who was in Chronicle?
They all started from Chronicle.
I thought he was from Edo State.
No, Ray is from Akwa Ibom.
Really?
But the Chronicle was the training ground after Daily Times.
Yes.
Patu Toby was in Chronicle.
Okay.
Yes. And the late Antigua Bassi was in Chronicle. Ambassador Ketoko, all of them were in Chronicle. You know. So when he encouraged me to write, and I wrote my first article that was, for a 16-year-old, it was well acclaimed. But even though the article bore my name, Victor Ndoma Egba, the story around Calabar was, have you read that article by Justice Ndoma Egba's son? You know, so I needed to break out from, and that's why I didn't join Rotary Club.
Okay.
Because my father was in Rotary. So I went to Lions Club instead, so that our paths can.
You can do your own.
Yeah, and he does his own, so there'll be no comparison.
I think that's a lesson in life, for those of my global audience that are watching now. You can actually, especially for the younger generation, you don't have to follow the footpath of your father, your mother. You must be able to be your own individual.
Yeah.
To be able to make your own achievements stand up for you. That's a nice one. So still on leadership, uneasy lies the shoulder that carries the burden. How do you cope with so many people coming from one favor or the other? And people seem to realize that, seem to forget that you may have your own personal responsibilities. I know it's not really easy, being a leader.
Being a leader in a third world situation is quite a major challenge, and it just goes right to the root of foundational problems of corruption. Lavon, go to Boki today and tell them that you want to be chairman next year. The local government elections will be next year. You'll pay for every funeral from today. You settle every hospital bill from today. You pay every child's school fees from today. It's a cultural thing.
Sorry, my distinguished. I was listening to a politician who was a media person like us, and she said, look, if you don't take time, you're not careful, you come out broke, more broke than when you got it.
Which rich former
politician, I don't want to mention.
The which rich former politician do you know? People, I hear this story about the scandalous salaries and allowances they take from the National Assembly. In fact, there is a very big man now, so I won't mention his name. But when he came, two of them came to the Senate. Both of them are very big people. And the first meeting we had, they said they came to this Senate to stop the scandalous allowances that were being paid to senators. And then when the first allowances were paid and we had our next closed-door meeting, these two gentlemen now asked, when are we being paid? And David Mark said, what are you?
He came to something.
He said, you have been paid. Victor explained to them. So I said, this money you got, that was your salary. And they were like, is that all? So now,
wrong impression.
It's not for me to begin to defend the Senate or the National Assembly because they should be able to do so on their own.
I think people who are watching this interview right now may not necessarily believe, because they feel that as a senator you get so much allowances, you corner all the juicy contracts and things like that. That's why somebody comes with a veto today into the Senate. 2 months down the line, they buy Mercedes, So
but that
no allowances.
But that is the same reason why when they leave the Senate, they go back from the Mercedes to the Beetle. I challenge you, Lavon, to show me any former National Assembly member who remained rich after he left the National Assembly, except those who had businesses before they went there. From Dr. Wyers down, show me one former rich National Assembly person. So I think that the National Assembly has been judged
unfairly.
Well, let me not say unfairly, by standards different from what they use in judging other members of the public sector. I give you an example. The minister of wherever, if he's traveling He's paid his traveling allowance is not so. It's not from his salary, isn't it? He has overheads to run his ministry. He has all of those things. You know, but when a senator is traveling, the money they give to him, the same way they give to a minister to travel, they say that this there is now computed as part of his emoluments. You know, and those figures they mention are just
Fictitious figures.
they are just scandalous. You see, the truth of the matter is that for the almost 30 years of military rule, there was no National Assembly. So Nigerians got used to doing without a National Assembly. So now they just see National Assembly members as people they could do without. But the paradox is that without a National Assembly, you don't have a democracy. You know, and we shouldn't pursue this illogic to the point where we have a timid National Assembly, because that is what is happening now. The National Assembly has two problems. They have been so battered by public opinion that they are getting timid. Then the second is that the political space is shrinking by the day. In another 4 or 5 terms, if care is not taken, the whole of the Senate will be made up of former governors.
Now, distinguish what
You
I'm
know.
saying that maybe the National Assembly, because you've been part and parcel of the National Assembly, you've contributed a lot, you know, over the years to the growth of the National Assembly. Do you think that the National Assembly probably don't have a perfect image maker to be able to like correct all this misconception about them to the Nigerian public?
There is no National Assembly or Parliament anywhere in the world that can win a beauty contest. It is a very unpopular institution inherently, and I tell you why. You take the executive. The National Assembly oversights the executive, not so. Who oversights the National Assembly? The public itself. So the public and every aspect of the responsibility of the National Assembly is in the public eye. Even when you have closed door sessions, you have to come out and announce what you discussed and agreed in the closed door sessions. So the level of scrutiny of the National Assembly is not the same as you get for the executive. How much is the budget of the National Assembly? I don't know how much it is today, but it has been between 1.5 and 3% of the budget of the country. The attention that 1.5 to 3% gets is far more than the 97% that you get. What you pay for fuel subsidy is far in excess of what the National Assembly is. So how come the fixation with 3% and the lack of attention on the 97%? So there is something wrong. We are giving uneven attention. I am not saying that the National Assembly doesn't have its problems. It does. Some are structural, some are historical. I give you an example. I just mentioned that in the almost 30 years, 29 years of military rule, you didn't have a National Assembly. But the executive was growing. The judiciary was growing. There was a time we used to have what you call ouster clauses in decrees. Because the judiciary was growing, they found a way around the ouster clauses. But the National Assembly in those years did not exist at all. So each time the military left, the National Assembly had to start from the scratch. And then you take the issue of turnover. You go to the US, Joe Biden entered the US Senate the same year I was writing School Set, 1972. He was there for how long? You see so many of them. They have been there 40, 50, 60 years. Here, and why is it so? The National Assembly is not like the executive or the legislature or the judiciary. Come May 29th next year, Buhari will formally hand over. There will be a transition process. This is what we are doing. This is where we reach. This is where we are going. There will be a transition committee at the federal level and at the state level. You go to the judiciary, you have what we call the hierarchy of courts. Customary magistrates, High Court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court. You know, you have the doctrine of stare decisis and judicial precedents. And they have a very sophisticated archival system. That is why if you are looking for a case between Sadep and Bawup that took place in 1892, you still find a judgment. The archival system is thorough. The executive, you have the permanent secretaries, you have an elaborate civil service system and a public service system to support the executive. In the National Assembly, the memory, the institutional memory of the institution is the aggregate of Lavon as senator, Victor as senator, and what's her name? Mohammed as senator put together. That's what constitutes the memory. And that is why when a senator is leaving, there's nothing called handing over note. He clears his office. Clears.
So even if you needed to do a documentary, you can't get such proper documents.
You can get from maybe what happened on the floor of the Senate, the Hansards. You can get from committee records. But that is not all of the experience of the National Assembly. You understand? So those people who have stayed 20, 30, 40 years become the memory of that institution. It is a peculiar institution and it should encourage longevity, you know. But in our own circumstances, local politics, first the governor, when he's leaving, wants your seat. So he does everything to throw you out.
Because I always believe in experience, you know, like if you've been there for like 1 or 2, 3 times, you've learned, you have more experience to put back into the system.
Yeah.
But if you have the experience, then you're out, another person comes in, the person starts from afresh. And the person may not necessarily be interested in building up the National Assembly. They are interested in being relevant in power.
In another 4 or 5 terms, the whole of the National Assembly, the whole of the Senate will be populated by former governors. They are the ones who today go to the Senate. They are the ones who become ministers. They are the ones who become party chairmen. So the political space is narrowing by the day. You know, we used to be taught that democracy is government of the people, for the people, by the people. But the Nigerian brand of democracy is government of governors, for governors, and by governors.
I like that definition.
You know?
Well, you know, my thing is now, you know, I'm doing this interview more like a documentary. I hope you don't mind. I just said this is the time I have to like do this. So what's your perspective on life?
You take whatever comes your way. And given what I've gone through, like I told you, I started out quite early. And that was the good. There was a time it was like everything I touched became gold. And at that point, you begin to get, maybe if you are not careful, arrogant. You know. But it's a question of time that pain and grief, you know, but like I said, life is a cocktail. You must have the good, the bad, the ugly. It's a cocktail. You must experience all of it. It's just a question of time. So for me, my perspective is that for you not to get arrogant when it is good and to remain balanced when it's not so good is to have that thing they call faith. The moment you have what is called faith, you'll be able to navigate through life, taking every experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, in stride. You know my experience in 2020. What people didn't know was that from 2018, I had major health challenges, life-threatening health challenges. In fact, for a lot of people who had the same challenges, it was terminal. We never recovered, but I recovered fully, you know. And that 24th of October 2020, when the NSAS people went to destroy my home in Calabar.
It was a very challenging period.
It was a challenging period.
The Calabar experience.
No, it started in August.
I think your mom died or...
My mother-in-law, who was here with
Yes,
us,
yes.
she just went home and one day she said, I'm not feeling well. And by the next day she was dead. And then when I had visited my mother was ill. You know. And 1 week later, my mother followed. And then my cousin, who recorded my last visit to my mother, hell and head, went to bed and didn't wake up. So in 1 week, I buried my mother on a Tuesday. On Friday of that week, I buried my mother-in-law. On Saturday of the same week, I buried my cousin. Then I came back and then traveled abroad for my checkup. That 24th October was the day I was given a clean bill of health.
Wonderful.
So my wife and I were celebrating it on the phone because she couldn't come. She were to travel together and then I think she had inspectors in her school. She couldn't come. So we were celebrating my clean bill of health when information came that these rioters were moving towards the house. And I remember her words to me, look, Victor, as it is, they are going to raise down the house. Just take...
The memories,
yes, take your mind off it. If this is the price we have to pay for you getting back your health, so be it. And we're down. I was watching it live. It was being live streamed. In fact, I was in the hotel and I was sitting.
They couldn't salvage anything like, memories and...
Nothing. The only thing they left was the floor. They removed toilet seats.
That really, they were really ready for that.
They were there for almost 5 hours. The water tanks, 3 of them.
They removed everything.
They drained them, brought them down, and rolled them out. The water pumps, they brought them out. So they came prepared with all sorts of equipments and gadgets. 2 weeks later, let me just attend my friend's mother's burial. And less than 10 minutes to their destination, a truck leaves its lane. My dear, there was a story Governor El-Rufai told me when he came to pay condolence. The day is your day. Be on your bed. You must keep that appointment. If you like, be on your bed. It will come and meet you. My neighbor, the former DGSSS, the wife came back from work. Came back from work, had lunch, and died. She didn't travel. So the moment is your day, my dear. You can't escape it. So my attitude to death is that it's a route that everybody will travel. My wife's day came, she went. When my own day comes, I will go. The important thing for me is let me not go to bed at war with my conscience, because all of us have that little voice. We all know, even the armed robber knows when he's doing something wrong. There's a little voice that will speak to you. If your ears are open, you will hear the voice. That is the voice of God telling you, don't do this.
Now, what has this experience taught you? Many people are watching this program right now all over the world, and people are going through one challenge or the other. Life is so hard because of my own faith, Life is full of struggles, sufferings. Nothing is meant to be perfect in life. Because the moment you agree to be born and come to this world, you've already signed a contract with problems, joys, sadness, and so on. For people who are going through what you've been through, even worse all over the world that are watching us right now, can you share your own experience? How were you able to cope? I know people say time heals.
Mm-hmm.
But does time really heal? Are there times you forget? Share your experience for somebody out there who is going through what you've been through right now and is grieving. How were you able to
For me, faith provides that balance. And then, I don't know what to call it, religion or faith. The world is like traveling the high sea. And no matter how large the ship is, you're just a dot if you're on the high sea. And if you don't have a compass, because it's just one formless mass of water. So if you don't have a compass to show you that you are going east or west or north or south, you'll just be wandering on the high sea. So for me, faith is that compass that tells you, hey, do this, don't do that. In my second term in the Senate, I led a delegation to Swaziland. And as part of the tour, they took us to a glass factory. In fact, I have such beautiful pieces from that trip in my house here in Abuja. And they showed us the process by which glass is made. So I said, I wanted to see how crystal.
Okay.
They took me through the process. You multiply the heat by 1,000 times to get that beautiful glass.
So you melt it,
molds it,
and polishes it.
So, for you to be that crystal in life, you have to pass through that heat. God doesn't try the faithful. He tests the faithful. So all these challenges are to test your faith. He doesn't put you on trial. It's just to test your faith. And for me, if you know that life has an end, when, how, where, we used to have this night prayer in Merinol before you go to sleep. I know that I will die. I know not how, when, and where. But if I die in mortal sin, then I'm doomed forever. That was the prayer children were taught. You can imagine, you will just be having bad dreams for a child to say, I know that I will die at that age, 10, 11, 12, you know. So if you have that attitude that life is finite, it will end, it will come, it will go. Now you begin to interrogate what is the whole essence of life. To know God, to serve Him, to love Him. How do you serve God? You don't see Him. When I was hungry, you gave me to eat. When I was thirsty, you gave me to drink.
Like in my Catholic faith, that's
Yes.
what I would call the corporal works of mercy.
Yeah, yeah.
And the spiritual works of mercy.
Yeah. So now you serve God by serving man. And that is why I had this attraction for public service. Or the public service had this attraction for me. Without being immodest, I think I did well as a lawyer. But successful, no matter how successful you are as a lawyer, there is a limit to which you can intervene in the good of people. But when you're in public life, when you're in politics, your audience is larger. Your reach is larger. And I'll give you an example. I was in this house, I was living here in my first term, when my friend's son, who is today a very big man, they were posted to Jigawa State for NYSC. And they got to Duse a few minutes after midnight because they came from Calabar and their bus kept breaking down. That was the last day for them to be admitted into camp. It was Harmattan season. These were young people who had never traveled beyond their familiar places. They got there and they said, sorry, we can't take you. And they were all crying, tired, hungry. So one of them, my friend's son, found my number and called me. Sir, this is so and so calling. This is what is happening. I said, do me a favor. Get me the number of the state director of NYSC. So he got me the number of the state director of NYSC, somebody from Ebonyi State. And somehow, as we got talking, it turned out that he was in Merinol. He had attended Merinol, but I didn't meet him. He was my senior in Merinol. And of course, we had to talk Merinol gist before going to the problem. So he said, Senator, so why are you calling me? So I now explained to him. He says, sir, this is a national policy. Even my own daughter is outside the gate right now as we speak in Ibadan. She was posted to Ibadan. And she cannot get in. For the same reason. I said, can I have the DGNYC's number? Because he said that is the only person who can send him. And he said he could give me, but that please, in the name of God, I shouldn't tell the DG. I said, of course, as a senator, I can get his number from anywhere. So I wouldn't tell him. So I called the DG. And that night, they announced a 1-week extension. So there is no way the most successful lawyer would have achieved that. Yeah. You can only achieve it if you are in public life. And then for me, what is public life? There are people who see public office as an avenue for self-enrichment, self-aggrandizement. I told you the story of the stand pump and my mother when she was chairman, when we said she didn't come to save her children. That has been my attitude. If you want to be a rich man, go and do business. Nobody will begrudge you if you become a Dangote or $10 or whatever. Go and make your money, make money making your business. But the moment you are in the public service threshold, first is something that is a job that takes 24 hours, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, 365 days. You know, so it's a full-time job to serve the humanity. So it's not, the public service should be like the Catholic priesthood. If you are lucky, if you think some comfort comes your way in the process, for as long as it's legitimate. And for me, the basic things I needed to do, I had already done them before I got into public office. You know, I wasn't looking for a house, I wasn't looking for a car and all of that.
Do you feel accomplished? Do you feel like, hey, I've come this far, I'm 66 years old, I've done this for my nation, I've done this for family, I've done this for my community. You know, what is there that's left for Senator Ndoma Egba to still do?
A lot more. Plenty.
You don't feel accomplished at this point?
No. And like I told you, when you say 66, it depends on which figure you are using. Because when I'm playing tennis, I'm 35. And my state of health now is, I am under 40. So I still have...
So I can actually declare you like 18 years. That'd be very
don't put me in trouble, oh, my sister.
That'd be very generous.
Don't put me in trouble, oh. Those days of Ogoja have passed. So, you know, but I still, look, as the country, this country has been very generous to me, to my generation. Our people have been very generous to me and my generation. When I went to primary school, you were not allowed to wear sandals.
So what did you wear?
You went barefoot. Because
there were no shoes?
No. I had shoes. In fact, there's my...
I'm just saying generally, you know?
No, generally, they were my generation. If I go to ICOM, they will be teasing me, those of you who wore shoes when we were growing up. Okay, more or less. But the issue is that the focus was building an egalitarian society. So they use the measure of the poorest, the weakest amongst you. The poorest child, does he have shoes?
Yes.
If you say no, then nobody wears shoes. All of you come so that you are the same.
You don't like the Catholic Women Organization. Even if you are a president's wife, on that day when they are wearing their uniform, you must wear the China. So everybody wears the same cheap China. Is it 200?
Precisely. And if you go to Catholic schools, my son went to Loyola Jesuit College. If you like, be the president of the universe. When you are coming to visit your child, you park your car outside and walk in. So everybody is the same. So society was focused on building an egalitarian society. See the universities we went to. I went to University of Lagos. You wake up in the morning, you have your bath, you go for lectures, they come and make your bed, they dress your bed for you, clean your room for you. You are having your meals. We had a hall mistress called Mrs. Jaja. She will be going on, Victor, your bill is not balanced. You have to add this, you have to add this. We're undergraduates. Today you have graduates of 20, 30 years who cannot afford a single proper meal. Where did we lose it? Which turn did we miss? You know, so for me, the challenge is, even if you can't make the country better, continue to contribute your quota to take it to where at least you were. You know, so for me, it's still plenty of work to do, to be done. Still plenty of work. People tell me, oh, okay, someday you'll remarry and then Hello? I'm a law-abiding person. I followed law and order. In this business, we have our seniors. When Babangida marries, then Victor Ndoma Egba will think of marrying.
That's a nice one. You know that what legacy do you want to leave behind you? You leave to because since okay, the official age is 66 at the time of this interview, and like you're 34 years. So you live for 134 years from now on to 134 years. So what legacy do you want to leave behind for people to go into history to read about Senator Victor Ndoma?
I don't want to live that long. For the simple reason that if you stay too long here, by the time you get the other way, there might be no accommodation for you. So let me go when I can still find. My parents lived up to 90 something, So
you live to like 100 and something.
Okay, fine. For as long as I'm in good health and I'm not a burden to anybody, no problem. But I won't want to be a burden to anybody. So what legacy? Somebody who came, lived his life, played his part, and has gone to rest. I don't want to. I had a conversation many years ago with Donald Duke. He was a young governor. I think he was less than 2 years in office. And we were talking, and then his colleagues had started acquiring property left, right, and center. And I said that, look, Donald, this crass acquisition of property. And Donald told me something. I want to build high-rise buildings in the hearts and minds of people.
Is that what Donald said?
Yes, that was what he told me. And that is what I will say today. I have been the most misunderstood. People say Victor is elitist. He is stingy. And sometimes you go to the mirror and you look at the mirror to say, is it me they are talking about? Because I have a report. We have records of those we sent for medical tourism to Israel, to India, to Germany. We have those records, don't we? We have records of the people that we got employment for when I was in the Senate. And the challenge is that people still call you to say, oh, guys, I saw the list. My name is not there. Maybe you forgot me. So that list is not complete.
They will show you that, okay, you've done this for them.
Yes.
And they're willing, hoping that their name should, so you forgot it.
We have the last did of my project before I left the Senate. We stopped at 92 projects from the mega to the mini. And we stopped at 92 because those who were traveling with me, including the journalists, were exhausted. Today, I don't know of any senator who has gone to inspect projects since I left. I'm not aware. And I challenge them. Publish the projects you've brought. Publish the people you've gotten employment. Let us see. But the question you ask, are you fulfilled? I am satisfied that I have reached this point in my life, in the profession, in society, in politics, without doing anything that I'm ashamed of owning up to in public. They tell you politics is a dirty game. Yes. I have blood on my hands. But you know the kind of blood I have on my hands? When a mosquito comes to bite me and I kill it.
I saw that yesterday too.
So that is the blood. But I challenge politicians to tell me who has reached where he is. And he doesn't have blood on his hands. I've never bought a gun for anybody. I've never bought a catapult for anybody. Since we started campaigns till today, we have never said one person died in our team. All that whoa, we didn't kill a fowl on the road. So that is what gives me satisfaction, that I can stand in public and say, I have reached here, I haven't done it. If you know anything wrong I've done, come and challenge me. You know. So for me, it's been, there's still a long way to go, but so far it's been an eventful life. To come from a place called Cameroon Street, I don't know if you know Cameroon Street in Nicom.
Yes, this young guy from Cameroon Street in Nicom, how does he unwind? Because you are busy, I'm looking at all these logos and people are coming and everything. So what do you do to unwind, to keep you healthy? Because I want you to live to 134 years in health. So what do you do to unwind?
Through 34 years in health and without owing the bank. Okay. To unwind, the easiest I do to unwind, weather permitting. If I'm in Abuja, don't give me any appointment between 5 and 7 p.m. Except it is raining.
It is raining.
Except it is raining. Because between 5 and 7, I must have my minimum 1.5 hours game of lawn tennis.
Wow. So do you do that every day?
Every day I'm in Abuja, weather permitting. Okay. Now, I do a lot of reading. I'm a very lazy reader. And I'm struggling to be technology compliant. So I still can't read from the devices. It must be a book. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not only, there are so many people I know who still deal with the hard copy.
Oh yes.
If you say the light disturbs them or something like that.
If you send me a document by email, I have to print it, yes, to read it, to respond to it.
The lawyer in you speaks.
So because I'm a lazy reader, and I'm fascinated by the printed word. My mother tells me that when I turned 5 on my 5th birthday, because it's only one birthday when I was a child that was celebrated, and you see the picture there with a dog. Yes. It was only after No, we'll move it. It was only after I married that a friend started celebrating me. But she said when I was 5, she asked me what I wanted as a birthday gift. And she was shocked when I said I needed a newspaper. So they started giving me a newspaper to read every day. And incidentally, the vendor that brought that newspaper remained my vendor even as a lawyer in Ogoja until I left Ogoja. So,
well, now talking about that, the younger generation don't read.
They say if you want to hide anything to a Nigerian, put it in a document or in a book.
But they will never find it. So what is the way forward? Because I love to read. I read every day as part of my routine in life. I must read every day. So, and I noticed that most young people don't read. A friend of mine was my classmate in secondary school in the federal government college. Started up this readers club or something, and she's really taking it high because she's trying to encourage the younger generation to read. So how do we get this right?
Well, society is dynamic. Society is dynamic. These days, people read from devices. They are more into applications and all of that. You listen to music now, it's computer formulated. It is only when you go to Zaire that you still see them playing with those raw skills, But I think that people still, because reading is for knowledge, they still try to acquire knowledge from other means. You have many more ways of getting knowledge now. Television, your phone, this small phone carries so much, But I think that first, for us to move forward as a society, we must agree on certain values. We must agree as a country, as a people. We must agree on certain basics. And that is why, for me, the end result of all of this politicking will be the day we say, as Nigerians, we are having a conversation to agree on the Nigeria of our dreams and how we are going to achieve the Nigeria of our dreams, and everybody, irrespective of political party, will be bound by the outcome of that conversation.
Now, I've known you, and I know you're deep about your faith. You're passionate is the word. You're committed about your faith. So let's go into how your faith has molded you all throughout your life.
Well, for me, the Catholic faith is a way of life. First, I told you my mother was a missionary teacher. The Ndoma Egbas are largely Presbyterian. In fact, Justice Ndoma Egba was a trustee of the Presbyterian Church. So I'm a freak accident in the family. My mother was a missionary teacher, and I was born at baptism. I was baptized at birth. Because at that time she was the parish secretary. So as soon as the priest, I think it was an Irishman called Reverend Father Sullivan, they had rushed to the church and the hospital were. So I was baptized, and it's been a way of life for me. You wake up, morning mass, choir, then aspired to be a priest. It didn't work, but it's just a way of life, the teachings. And then when I was in the Senate, that was where the teachings of the Catholic Church, struck me. Because when they tell you that the Catholic Church, for instance, prohibits or does not approve of abortion, ordinarily it sounds like theory. But if you are a Catholic and you see, so your faith has already told you what position to take. The Catholic Church abhors the death penalty, for instance. So I don't go into arguments about the merits or demerits of the death penalty. No, my church says we shouldn't agree, period. So I don't bother. So for me, it's a way of life. It's a way of life, and if you follow our teachings, it provides for virtually every situation. Virtually every situation.
Now I want to know, what has been your best moment in life so far? Because it's told me that in these pages of your life, it's like a cocktail. Cocktails to have Margarita, Bloody Mary, so many. So I want to know what has been your best moment in life? What would you consider? Maybe single, 2, 3, 4?
Each day I wake up.
Because no matter the challenges in life, yes, life is because of your faith, yes, life is challenging. We all go through one challenge or the other. But there must be some moments.
Each day that I wake up, especially if I'd had a good sleep, and a good sleep is a gift from God. And I have little or no problems with sleep, which means that I'm a child of God. I can be talking to you now, and in the next 2 minutes, I have had a good sleep for 2 minutes and I'm back. But each morning when I wake up and I finish my prayers, I go by the window. I go by my room's window and I say to God, it is not everybody you provide for that has the grace of enjoying what has been provided for. You gave me this beautiful house and I have enjoyed it. I thank you. So for every day, you look around and you see what God has provided for you. And you're able to take time to say, hey, God, this office, thank you.
Now, the favorite, I don't know if there's anything you want to say to our global audience who are watching Pages TV now, because life itself is chapters. In the chapters, we have pages. So, one last word to our global audience.
Well, whatever you desire, if it hasn't reached you, doesn't mean that that you've lost it. It's just a question of patience. I remember the 2 or 3 years that my wife and I had to live in a house without a roof. with a young son. At that time, my son was maybe 7, and a lot of people thought life had ended for me, but life only ends when you have said it has ended. For as long as you will it, So quite a number of things: patience, hard work, integrity, and you'll get to wherever you want to get to.
Thank you so much, distinguished senator, for taking time to share the pages of your life. Life only ends when you say it is ended. So for me here in Pages TV, I think there's so much we should look out for. Don't give up if things are a bit hard, because life itself can be challenging, but there are sweet moments in life as we keep on turning the pages of our lives. Uh, Take 2.
Action.
Life only ends when you say it's ended. So no matter how challenging the situation may be, let us keep on flipping through the pages of our lives until I see you again, same time, next time, same station. Let us see whose pages we're going to share on this Page TV. Thank you.